Hello digital art students, it's Mr. House. We are taking a look at the four-letter word assignment. Here it is, and to get started, we're going to try making this image, the Love image by Robert Indiana from 1966, in Adobe Illustrator. So Illustrator looks like this. I've launched it. Here it is. And this is how you create a new file. So go to File, New. And it's already set up to be letter sized, which is for print, so you can just hit OK. And up it comes. I'm going to close this one because I don't need it. Next, I'm going to go back to the four-letter word assignment and click on the image Love. And it comes up big, and I'm going to right-click and save image as. And it'll come up with Robert Indiana Love. You can just save that on your desktop somewhere you'll find it easily. Go back to Illustrator, and the first thing you do is go to File, Place, and look for that image on your desktop. I'm scrolling down to the R's. It's in alphabetical order. I'll choose Robert Indiana Love and place it. Right away it's going to come up quite large, and so I can press Command, Spacebar, and Option all together, and I get a negative zoom tool, and then I can use the selection tool to shrink this down to size while holding the Shift key. That's important to keep your proportions right. So you notice I'm shrinking this down till it fits into the window, and I can use the arrow keys to get it just right. At this point I press Command 0 and it fits on screen. Now the next thing I'm going to do is we're just using this image as something to build on top of. So I'm going to double click on the layer over here in Layers, and I'll click on Lock and dim images to here it says 50%. And there we go. So now we can't do anything with this, it's just there to help us figure it out. Next thing I do is create a new layer. And what I'm going to do is this will be a layer with the letter L. So I come up to the text tool, click once, and then just type in a capital L. And right away it's very tiny, and I can select it and make it much larger this way. See how that goes? It still needs to go much larger, but I also need to change the font style. And I know this needs to go to Times New Roman. So I go down and scroll down through Times New Roman. There it is. And I could even try a different one. Let's see what Times just looks like. Very similar. We'll stick with Times New Roman. Then I can go to the selection tool again while I have this letter selected, and I get the box around it. Now I can easily drag while holding the Shift key, drag it much larger. And I move it back up, and again drag it much larger, so that it's starting to get to be the size of the image that we're on top of. And remember, use the Shift key each time, even though you might want to drag it larger in certain places to make it fit. Don't do that yet. Okay. Now, I have the L in place, and I could go ahead and make separate layers for each of the next letters, but I'm going to work with L first just to show you how to get this started. So with my L selected, I go up to the Type menu, click on Type, and choose Create Outlines. Now what this does is it now turns this L into a series of points and lines. It's really no longer a letter that we can change. If I press Command Z and undo it, you'll notice that if I double click on the letter, I could change it to a B. I could change it to an O. will go back to L, but once I select it and create outlines, I can no longer change this letter to anything else. But what I can do is modify it, and that's what I want to do. Because you'll notice it doesn't look exactly the same. So with it selected, I'll go to the Direct Select tool. The Direct Select tool, when I deselect, I can select just specific points. So watch as I grab these points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I use my arrow keys and I just move them over to the left till they line up on the edge there. Then I can select again, and notice I'm just clicking and dragging a window over the points I want, and I select just these points. Notice I didn't select this top one because I don't want to do anything with that one, and I start moving it down. Now I notice I need to also move this one, so I can hold the Shift key, click on it, and it adds it to the selection. I move it down. Once again, I can move this one down, and that deformation that happened there goes away. I could select just these two, go down a little more. Whoops, notice I didn't get this one as well. So point by point, I can make this letter fit the one below it. I deselect, click and drag over the points I want. I can add another one holding the Shift key. Up I go. And you'll notice we're getting very close to the original shape of the letter that Robert Indiana used. I'm going to zoom out, and you can see I have a lot more work to do. I have to stretch these points out to fit here, here. It's time consuming, but in the end you'll learn a lot about Illustrator. When you get your letters ready, let's switch to one that's finished here. And you'll notice by putting layers of color underneath, I've put in backgrounds to the letters. The letters are on top. And so now I have an image that's very close to the original by Robert Indiana. Using layers, letters, creating outlines, and shapes of color. Thank you for learning.